What will you do to unlock innovation? In today's fast-paced world, innovation might not be enough. Tomorrow's pioneers of change will need to be agile, able to adapt, and committed like never before. Your host, Sannah Vinding, invites you to listen in and join business leaders from around the world as they share their visions for success in our future business challenges.
Welcome. So today it's Unlock Innovation. I'm really honored today. I have Bella Englebach here with me, and she's a lead consulting at Lean for Humans. I've known Bella for a couple of years, especially through LPPDE. That's where we met each other. And I still remember because she had a really fun workshop. We had some strings going on, and we had to think outside the box. I still have my strings. I still use the workshop, but I have to YouTube it to remember how to get out of it. But I love workshops. I love the hands-on. So welcome, Bella. So tell me about, you, your job, what you're doing and your passion for continuous improvement.
Wow. So I am an independent consultant. But I've only been doing this a couple of years. And before I worked for a long time in the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah.
And in the pharmaceutical industry, I worked in almost exclusively in research and development. So coming up with new products.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was sort of inflicted on us at one point was Six Sigma. And I thought it was really interesting. And it was also interesting because it didn't really work all that well in research and development, because research and development keeps changing, and that's the idea. When you're coming up with new things are going to change all the time.
Yeah.
So I went on an exploration to see what might work better. And after a while, I kind of landed on two things that seemed to be really important. And the first was creativity. That in R&D, and of course everywhere else in your business, you have to have creativity. And that creativity is a skill. Some people, we think of being naturally creative, but it's a skill, and you can develop that skill, and there are tools and approaches to become more creative and to help groups become more creative. So that was sort of one thing. And then the other thing was lean and lean thinking, and you alluded to LPPDE and lean process and product development. But this idea that you can take lean thinking and apply it to developing new products was huge.
Yeah.
Because every project that we had done that was about continuous improvement was about improving a piece of the process. But here was something that was about improving the whole process. How do you get better products to customers faster? And I was just so intrigued by that and so excited and so passionate. So that really is, I would say those are the things, that really get me going, is this idea of, we've got to be creative. We have to build our creativity skills, and that you can apply lean thinking to product development. And then the third thing that has just become really important, and why I named my company Lean for Humans, is that it's all about the people.
It
right?
is. It
and
is.
We can get so focused on tools and approaches and techniques, and it's really about helping people learn to become better problem solvers.
Yeah. And how do you, because I think there's also the principles, right? Because you can have so many tools and bring in, but if there's no guidance or principle to say, this is the North Star that we're going for, or this is where we are, how do you then merge or combine the human factor with the principle that then are using the tools? What's the golden?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. I think that you always have to have people at the center, right? People have to be at the center, and it has to be about, you're making something. I'm stealing this from something I read a couple of weeks ago. You're making things easier for people. You're either making it easier for your customer, or you're making the work easier for your employee, or you're making it easier for people to grow and learn, or you're making it safer. So it's always about, can you make things better for people?
Yeah.
And I really think that's the North Star. And if you can focus on that, then you can make the decision, all right, in this situation, do I use this tool? Do we need to take this approach? Is this a time? I don't mean to be disrespectful to Six Sigma, but is this a time when taking a Six Sigma approach would really help us?
Yeah.
Is this the time where, purely going for something that is more creativity focused, like design thinking, is that something that we need to do? So for me, it's about, are we making things better for people? And I would say, to be truly idealistic, are we making things better for the world, right? So, our environment, our planet, the animals, the oceans, things like that. Are we really thinking about that?
Yeah.
Really ideal.
That's the, no. I know, but it's there's so many angles to it, right? I also think it depends on the company that you work with or you work within, or the organization, right? If it's a small company or if it's a bigger company, it's always a different approach how you go in and present and then get that creativity out of the team. But that's what's fun as well. I think it's fun.
Bigger companies have more resources, obviously, and able to bring more resources to bear on something. But bigger companies also have, there's more complexity. And in Lean, we talk about we want things to be simple. In a large company, it's very hard for things to be simple, right? Every decision has ramifications on systems that you might not even be aware of. So,
Okay. So I looked at your career. So it's really interesting, right? Because so you started as a medical writer, then director of process excellence, and then you're moving around and now you're like a consulting. So tell me about your journey. How did it just lead with your stepping stones here?
Well, it's a long story, Sannah. So I don't know if you really want to hear it.
Okay, I'll sit down.
So I think my LinkedIn profile starts with me being a medical writer. But before that, I started as a biologist, and my degree's in biology. Yeah. And I got my first job was in a research lab, in a hospital, in an academic hospital academic lab. And basically, I was a pair of hands for some docs who were doing research. I didn't really know what I was doing, honestly. I was there, they told me to do things and I did them, and I was using my degree, which was fabulous because I knew people who would, were not using their degree. So it was really good. But one day I was in the lab and two of the docs were in and they were talking about something. I don't even remember what it was, but I had been reading something about this topic. I'm sitting there doing my work and I said, I think. And the guy who was the head of the lab turned to me and he said, "You're paid to work, not think." And I immediately thought, oh my goodness, what is going on here? Yeah. And, I think that was an impetus for me to start to think about things differently. But at the same time, I was a young mom. My husband and I, when we bought our first house, we had kids, son to raise the kids. We had, financial obligations. And so somebody said to me, well, you could do the same thing, the same work you're doing. You could do it instead of doing an academic research. You could go do it in the pharmaceutical industry and they pay you a lot more. And so when you're a young parent, with bills and everything, you're like, well, that sounds really good. Yeah. So I started applying to the pharmaceutical industry and they were right. I got a job in a pharmaceutical company, literally paid 3 times more than I was paying in academic research. Good for you. But the other thing that had happened in doing that and getting out of the academic system really, really is focused on advancing the people who have, the PhDs, the MDs, the doctoral degrees. Honestly, that's not where I was going to go. I think I'm a pretty smart person, but I wasn't going to keep going to school, getting more and more degrees. I couldn't with the kids. It's hard. I had to do that, and so what happened when I landed in the pharmaceutical company was that, and even though, again, I was sort of unaware of what was going on, I ended up in a situation where people looked at me as more than a pair of hands. They looked at me as being talent, which was a completely different way, I think, of being looked at. Yeah. And so what that created for me, and I had a wonderful boss there who looked at what I was doing. He looked at my technical reports I was writing. He said, "This person knows how to write." He said, "I want you to write more." Yeah. And that was amazing. And he said to me, now I want you to present the research that you're doing. Well, that had
Yeah.
never happened to me back in academia, because the people who present the research are the MDs and the PhDs. It's funny, Sam, I'm telling you this story. I don't think I've ever told anyone else this story.
Ooh.
But they looked at me, this guy looked at me as talent. He didn't look at me as,
Yeah.
just someone to do. He looked at me as someone to develop, and he put me in situations where I developed. He made me write stuff. He made me, write papers. He made me go to conferences and present papers. So there I was, this, this bachelor's degree person standing up there,
Turning into the expert, right?
Right. Yeah. And that was such a completely different way of being treated. And at the time, I didn't realize what was I learning from him. But what I was learning from him was that people are more than the work that they can do for you. They, people have gifts, and you can help them develop the gifts.
Yeah.
And so what happened then, and when the pharma company, was that I eventually, because of the writing I was doing, I ended up moving to medical writing.
Yeah.
And so I had been working in the discovery area, helping to find new drugs. And all of a sudden I was at the other end of the process, the product development process, writing the reports that go to the FDA in order to get drugs approved. So it was stunning. I suddenly got to see in written form the entire drug development process.
Yeah.
What a rare and amazing opportunity.
And complex, I believe, right?
It's very complex.
Yeah.
So I got to work with the chemists and the statisticians and the physicians and all of these people.
Yeah.
It was great. So, but what happened there was, after only 2 years, I looked around, and there were people there who had been doing that job for 10 years, 15 years, 17 years. They were happy as clams. They were loving what they were doing. And I looked around, and I realized that wasn't for me, even though it was this huge learning opportunity. No. I've written the reports. I had written manuscripts. I had all of this experience.
Yeah.
And somebody came along and said, do you want to come and work for this little consulting company? And it turns out it could have been a really dumb decision, because what I didn't know was that company, like the month before, had to let go all of the people working for them because they couldn't make their payroll.
Oh.
But I was kind of starry-eyed, and so I said, "Yeah, I'll go." They said, "We need someone to write stuff. We're doing a series of instruction manuals, and we need someone to write instruction manuals." Now, I never written instruction manuals. That's okay. So I'll go write instruction manuals for them. They were consulting to the pharmaceutical industry. I go over there, start writing instruction manuals. They said to me, "Why don't you start teaching medical writing?" So then they dressed me up in a fancy suit, and they taught me to train, sent me all over the country, actually all over US and Europe, training people.
Yeah.
Right. Again, they looked at me as being talent. They didn't look at me as being just someone who wrote instruction manuals. What an incredible gift. And I wish I could say that, I thought through my career. I didn't. Honestly, I didn't. But I was fortunate enough to work with people who saw my potential. So I worked for the consulting company, and then as happens over the years, sometimes you end up being hired by your client. So I got hired by a client, which was a small company that at the same week that they hired me was acquired by a major pharmaceutical company. So there I was back in the big pharmaceutical company. But now instead of being a writer, I was actually a process consultant. So I learned process consulting the hard way by doing it wrong for a long time. Yeah. Until I started to learn about, all these things, that led up to me really understanding, learning about lean product and process development. So, yeah. So long story.
No, but it's always, because I think if I look at, my career as well, it's fun how it's been stepping stones around, and you find your passion. Right. And I hope for everybody else as well that's starting a career, that you find what you love. So when you get out of that bed in the morning, you really are happy and you like what you're doing. And sometimes you also forget, oh my God, I was sitting doing this. If it's a Friday afternoon, right? That happens sometimes. Not that, but it just, I love the passion. So when I meet somebody else and somebody like you that also have this passion and that drive, it's some I look up to you, and I like that's that's what I want as well.
Well, I think you're amazing. So
Oh, thank you. So if you have to look at your whole product development and continuous improvement, what's the most important thing you've done in your space? And you can have more than one, and hopefully you have one.
Okay.
I think you have, but if there's one you have to mention or you want to highlight, what would that be?
Well, it's funny. We spent a lot of time at my former company trying to implement a lean product development process. And as I was saying before, big companies are very complex, and there are a lot of things that happen, and it's very hard to make change inside a big company.
It's a container ship, right?
Right. Yes. It's if it's headed in a certain direction, if you're kind of in, if you're kind of in the lower decks, it's not necessarily possible to move. When I think back on what we did so much work coming up with how do you do lean product development in pharmaceutical development, which is a long product development life cycle.
Yeah.
You're dealing with biology, not engineering. All these things that are really hard. The core ideas is still the same, right? That you still want to do your learning early. It's so expensive in pharma to do your learning late. You get into phase 3 clinical trials, you do what you see the companies are doing now with the COVID vaccine. You're making decisions about manufacturing at risk, right? Those are hugely, massively expensive decisions. Those are the size of the dollar size of those decisions is mind-boggling, right?
Yeah.
And I wish I could say to you, Sannah, we did such a great job that now, this company and all the other companies in pharma of using a lean product development process. Really, that's not true. And so I would love to be able to look back and say, I made this huge change in the industry. That was our goal. We really changed the industry, have the industry work differently, more effectively. And we just weren't able to do that.
But it's a moving target, right? So
it's a moving target,
and it will never stop. Move. So I think you have to say, yes, I was successful in that moment at that time, right? Because then I'm sure you changed either something or the mindset.
So, but that's the thing, and that's the thing, because I know that there are people that I worked with who now understand those principles and have them embedded in their thinking. And some of those people, somewhere along the way, are going to take something that they learned and they're going to use it in a way that I never imagined.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was able to, as I look back, like, what did I accomplish? I believe, I hope that I was able to be a conduit for these amazing ideas and get them implanted in people, because that's the only way an idea lives, is when it's living in person, right?
You fostered it, right? And then got it to grow other places.
Yeah, and then those people are going to take it and they're going to make it real in their own place, and they're going to learn new things and add to it. So I would love to be able to say, we solve these these major problems which really impact the world. No, but not yet. Or maybe I'll have already, but I haven't seen it yet. I think when I look back on my career, and I'm at the point now when you said look back and well, what did I do? I think that what I really accomplished was this, that just as there were people who looked at me and said, look, here is a person who looks like she's a pair of hands doing lab work, but she's got some skill as a writer, and we should make sure she has opportunities to write.
Yeah.
I hope, in fact, I'm pretty sure I know that there are people out there that I've been able to do something like that for them, that I've been able to open some doors for them. And those people, it's sort of like having kids, those people are the ones that will, in one way or another, make the big change the world. So,
that's good.
Looking back at my career, and actually, like even now currently. So, you and I are both in this LinkedIn group called Women in Lean.
Yeah,
which is growing amazingly. It's last Monday there were 499 people. Today there are 577 women.
Oh wow! Yeah. It's just growing per the second.
Yeah, and we're all teaching each other. We're all in it.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. So,
it is.
So,
The last question, what would you have told Bella 10 years ago?
10 years ago?
Yeah.
I would have told Bella, I would have told Bella, look, you're going to end up leaving this company anyway. Be way more courageous. There were many times I think I held back and, didn't try something, didn't do something because I was worried about, honestly, if I create too much disruption, they're going to boot me out. Well, you know what? I ended up leaving anyway. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. And 10 years ago, I would have said, now is the time for you to really start looking out. What do you want to do next? And how are you going to do it better? And that's and don't be afraid. That's what I would.
No, I'm what I'm thinking is just do it. There's never a good time. Jump in, learn from it. You can sit and plan for many years or many hours. Sometimes just do it. Yeah.
Just do it. Yeah.
But,
Somebody should patent it.
That would be fun. No. So thank you so much, Bella. Thank you for joining me today. I learned to know you a little bit more, which I like. This is great, right? We're getting used to all the cameras as well because of 2020.
We're all used to being on video now. So.
Yeah. And everybody sees your personal home. That's how it is. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.